Hey everybody, Aaron here. Have you ever gotten yourself into a sticky spot mentally where you're thinking about God and you have these questions that just can't seem to be answered? Like, if God can, why doesn't God? Or if God is perfect, why is there evil? Why does it seem so imperfect? If God is all knowing, and if God is all powerful, and all loving, and it gets us into these sticky spots, and then that kind of makes us think, well, then maybe it's not true, and we instead of continuing to think and search, we often just turn around and walk away. I've seen that a lot of times. Well, let's talk about that today. Maybe that's you. Maybe it was me at one point, but now let's fix it. It's easy to fix. Step number one is you have to start with God and what God says about himself. So here we go. You meet a new friend at whatever social occasion, work, school, whatever. You meet somebody new online, whatever. And do you immediately start thinking philosophically about them? No, you say, tell me about yourself. Tell me your story. Where are you from? How old are you? Do you like chocolate? Any number of things like that. But see, we don't do that to God. we've oftentimes we get in here and we say, oh, well, God's all of this and all of that and omni this and omni that. And so therefore it doesn't make sense and the whole cart tips over and we go wrong. But if we start with God by saying, okay, well, what does God say about himself? Then things start to make sense. If we start looking at the Bible, the First Testament, Second Testament, Old Testament, New Testament, if we look at these things, we see a God who is relational, a God who tells us a lot about himself, a God who reveals much about himself. We don't see a whole lot of philosophy. Okay, they're very deep. Don't go there. But I'm not saying God never says, I'm omni this and omni that. That came later anyway. So what I'm saying to you guys is, who does God say he is? Well, we can see all the way through the Bible that he is relational. God is present. God is caring in with us. Okay, when Jesus shows up, Jesus says in the book of John, I reveal the Father perfectly. So when you see me, you see the Father. So what do you see in Jesus? Well, do we start looking at omni thises and omni thatses and all power? No, we see humility, presence, relationship, healing, laughing, crying. We see God who suffers with us on the cross and comes to new life in the resurrection, who comes to heal and bring new life. And you'll notice in all of this, that philosophy of well, all of this and all of that and omnis and it never really plays in. And so are you making the mistake of looking for the omni God and not finding him, when you should be looking for the God as revealed to people through the Bible, through Jesus, through the Holy Spirit? Because you'll find a lot more answers there, okay? And then after you get those bases covered, the basics down, then we can start growing in our thinking, our philosophy of God, how God relates to the world in suffering. Those are really big issues that take some really good thinking. And I'm not saying you're stupid and can't get there. I'm saying you can't start reading a book in the middle. You can't start watching a movie in the middle. You don't go from kindergarten to grad school, and you don't pull on Superman's cape, and you don't mess around with Jim. Anyway, sorry. So don't start there. This past week I saw a gal on TikTok, Facebook. She was, TikTok and YouTube, and she was complaining about how if God was perfect, how come there's imperfection in the world? If God is all perfect and all powerful, why is it? You don't start there, because you start with the presence of God who created something good that was messed up. Right? In suffering, we don't start with the idea that if God can stop it, why doesn't God? Then God's not all loving. We start with what has been told to us about God by himself, that he created good and that sin, death, and evil was disobedience broke it, and that our free will brings into this the pain and suffering, and that God has been working tirelessly to fix it, and even came and died himself to fix it. So you see, there's a big difference here. If you're wanting to know God, you're doubting God, don't start with the big philosophical descriptors of God. which were made to counter philosophical questions. Start with personal questions. Who is God? What do I see about God? What do I know about God? What does God say to me? How is God near? Those are the ideas. What does Jesus show to me? How I should be? And then you can think about those later on. All right, so that's it. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.